In 1969, a series of violent encounters along Maryland Route 108 left 17 drivers with matching injuries and identical descriptions of their attacker. State police initially dismissed the reports as hysteria following a teenage prank gone wrong. But when 3 officers witnessed the creature themselves during a routine patrol, the investigation took a darker turn. The case files remained sealed for decades. What you're about to hear comes from those who lived through that summer and never drove that stretch of road again. So, before we continue, please make sure to leave a like and let us know where you're watching from. Thanks. I first encountered the reports on June 14, 1969, when I was working dispatch for the Maryland State Police out of the Waterloo Barracks. My name is Patricia Morse, and I had been on the job for 3 years, mostly handling routine calls about speeding, drunk drivers, and the occasional domestic dispute along the rural routes between Baltimore and Washington. That Saturday started like any other summer evening shift. Humid, quiet, with thunderclouds building to the west. At 11:47 p.m., a call came through that changed everything. A man named Dennis Hartley, speaking in short, panicked bursts, reported that something had attacked his car on Route 108 near Clarksville. Not someone, something. His voice shook as he described a figure that ran alongside his vehicle at 40 miles per hour, striking the passenger door with enough force to leave deep gouges in the metal. When I asked him to describe the attacker, there was a long pause. Then he said 5 words that would become familiar over the coming weeks. Like a man, but not. I dispatched Officer Carl Brennan to investigate, thinking we had either a drunk driver or maybe someone suffering from heat exhaustion hallucinating on the dark road. Carl was a veteran, 15 years on the force, not prone to exaggeration or flights of fancy. When he radioed back an hour later, his voice had an edge I'd never heard before. He'd found Hartley's car pulled over near Triadelphia Road. The passenger side showed 4 parallel tears through the steel, each about 8 inches long, 2 deep, and 2 cleanly spaced to be from any tool Carl could identify. Hartley himself sat in the driver's seat, hands still gripping the wheel, refusing to get out until dawn. The second report came 3 nights later. Margaret Chen, a nurse returning from her shift at Howard County General, called from a payphone at a gas station in Dayton. Her voice was steady. Nurses know how to stay calm, but I could hear the effort it took. She reported that something had jumped onto the hood of her car as she passed through the wooded section near Triadelphia Reservoir. She described muscular legs covered in dark fur, hands that ended in thick, cracked nails, and a face that was almost human, except for the horizontal pupils and the short, curved horns protruding from its forehead. She had accelerated to nearly 70 miles per hour before the creature leapt off, vanishing into the trees. When Officer Brennan examined her vehicle, he found deep impressions in the hood where something heavy had landed, and scratches on the windshield that matched no animal he could name. The safety glass showed a spider web of cracks radiating from 5 distinct pressure points, as if something had gripped it while maintaining balance at high speed. By the end of June, we had 7 similar reports, all from different drivers, all describing variations of the same impossible creature. A businessman named Roger Walsh said it stood upright in the middle of the road, forcing him to swerve into the shoulder. When he stopped to look back, it was gone, but his rear bumper showed impact damage and coarse dark hair caught in the damaged metal. Two teenage sisters, Amy and Beth Morrison, reported seeing it leap from tree to tree above their car, following them for nearly 3 miles before disappearing near the intersection with Route 32. Each witness described the same basic features: the legs of a goat, the torso of a man, horns, and those distinctive horizontal pupils that caught the headlights like amber reflectors. The height estimates varied from 6 to 8 feet. Some said it moved on all fours, others claimed it ran upright. But every single person mentioned the smell. A thick animal musk, mixed with something chemical, like hot tar or burning rubber, that lingered in their vehicles for days. The state police officially maintained these were unrelated incidents, possibly involving a bear that had wandered down from the mountains or teenage pranksters inspired by local legends. Captain James Fletcher, our commanding officer, prohibited us from using certain terms in our reports. We couldn't write creature or Goatman or anything that might, as he put it, feed the hysteria. But privately, among ourselves, we knew something was happening on that stretch of road that didn't fit any conventional explanation. I started keeping my own unofficial log, documenting details that didn't make it into the sanitized official reports. The timing patterns interested me most. Every encounter occurred between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. All happened along a 7-mile stretch of Route 108 between Clarksville and Ashton. Most significantly, they clustered around nights with little to no moonlight, when the thick forest canopy created near total darkness broken only by headlights. On July 2nd, Officer Brennan convinced 2 other officers, Pete Kowalski and Samuel Hayes, to patrol that stretch with him during the peak hours. They drove separately but maintained radio contact, spacing themselves about a mile apart along the route. I worked dispatch that night, listening to their check-ins every 15 minutes. At 1:15 a.m., their routine chatter stopped mid-sentence. The silence lasted 30 seconds before Brennan's voice crackled through, tight and controlled. All units, we have visual confirmation, unclear on... Christ, it's on Pete's car. The next few minutes of radio traffic became legend in our department. 3 veteran officers, trained observers all, described watching something they couldn't rationalize pound on the roof of Kowalski's patrol car while he drove at 50 miles per hour trying to shake it off. Hayes, following behind, said it looked like a man from the waist up, but moved with the agility of a wild animal, maintaining perfect balance despite the vehicle swerving. When Kowalski finally hit the brakes hard, the creature rolled off the front, landing on all fours on the asphalt. For a moment, caught in 3 sets of headlights, it stood fully upright. Brennan later submitted a sketch showing a muscular humanoid torso, tapering to digitigrade legs covered in dark fur, ending in cloven hooves. The face was nearly human but elongated, with a pronounced jaw and those horizontal pupils that reflected gold in the lights. It stood there for perhaps 5 seconds, Brennan reported, then leapt, not ran, leapt, at least 20 feet into the forest, clearing the roadside barrier completely. The 3 officers searched the area with flashlights and found deep hoof prints in the soft earth and claw marks on several trees leading up the embankment, but no other trace. That incident changed everything. Captain Fletcher could no longer dismiss the reports as civilian hysteria. He assigned a special detail to patrol Route 108. Nightly, and quietly reached out to the University of Maryland's biology department for consultation. Dr. Elizabeth Crenshaw, a zoologist specializing in regional wildlife, reviewed our collected evidence, the hair samples, the photographs of tracks and damage, the detailed witness descriptions. Her preliminary report, which I managed to read before it was classified, stated that the hair samples contained DNA markers from both human and caprine sources, which she deemed biologically impossible, and suggested contamination. The tracks showed a gait pattern unknown in any native species. Most disturbing, she noted that the claw marks on vehicles displayed a level of force that would require massive muscle density, far exceeding any known primate or ungulate. The attacks escalated through July. On the 8th, a family of 4, the Wheelers, reported that the creature had run alongside their station wagon for nearly a mile, periodically slamming its fists against the windows. Their 7-year-old son, Timothy, drew pictures of what he saw that night. A horned figure with human arms and goat legs, running upright, its face contorted in what he called angry happiness. The child's drawing, crude as it was, captured something the adult descriptions missed. The creature seemed to be enjoying itself. On July 15th, Robert Vasquez, a long-haul trucker, reported that something had climbed onto his cab while he was stopped at a red light near the Simpsonville intersection. The creature tried to tear through the roof, its claws puncturing the metal in several places before Vasquez ran the light and accelerated. He drove straight to our barracks, refusing to continue his route. When we examined his truck, we found handprints pressed into the metal of the cab, hands with only 4 digits, each ending in what appeared to be a thick, curved claw. The prints were larger than any human hand, but showed clear dermal ridges, like fingerprints. The investigation took a darker turn on July 23rd, when we received a call about an abandoned car on the shoulder near Rocky Gorge Reservoir. The vehicle belonged to Jennifer Hoffman, a 28-year-old teacher who had been reported missing by her roommate when she didn't return from visiting her parents in Columbia. We found her car with the driver's door hanging open, the engine still running, and deep scratches along both sides. Blood on the steering wheel matched her type, though the amount suggested only minor injuries. Search teams combed the woods for 3 days. Dogs tracked her scent for about 100 yards into the forest before refusing to go further, whining and pulling back toward the road. On the 3rd evening, Jennifer walked out of the woods 5 miles from where her car was found. She was disheveled, with minor cuts and bruises, but largely unharmed. Her account of those 3 days remained consistent through multiple interviews, though Captain Fletcher ordered it sealed. She claimed the creature had pulled her from the car, not violently, but insistently, gripping her arm with hands that felt human, but stronger. It had led her deep into the woods, to what she described as a den built into a hillside, reinforced with woven branches and mud. The creature brought her water in its cupped hands and foraged berries, never harming her, but also never letting her leave. She said it would sit and watch her with those horizontal pupils, occasionally making soft, bleating sounds that almost seemed like attempts at communication. On the 3rd night, she woke to find the den empty. She waited until dawn, then made her way back toward the sound of the search helicopters. When asked why the creature had taken her, Jennifer could only shake her head. "I think it was lonely," she said, a statement that haunted me more than any description of violence. The public pressure following Jennifer's return forced an official response. The state police, in coordination with the Maryland Department of Natural Resources, announced they would conduct a comprehensive search of the forests along Route 108. They brought in tracking dogs, wildlife experts, even a team of spelunkers to explore the cave systems near the reservoir. The 2-week operation found numerous deer paths, several abandoned homeless camps, and one elaborate hoax, a wooden frame covered in fur that some teenagers had built, though they swore they'd made it after the sightings began, not before. But the official search also discovered things that never made it into the public report. In a cave near Brighton Dam, they found bones, deer, raccoon, and others they couldn't immediately identify, arranged in deliberate patterns. The walls showed what appeared to be primitive cave paintings, done in mud and what tested as blood, depicting figures that could have been humans, animals, or something between. Most unsettling was a collection of objects clearly taken from vehicles: a side mirror, several hubcaps, a string of rosary beads, and a Maryland license plate from a car that had been reported damaged in one of the encounters. During the search, the attacks stopped completely. For 2 weeks, Route 108 returned to being just another dark country road. Some took this as proof the creature had fled, or that the increased police presence had scared off whoever was perpetrating an elaborate hoax. But those of us who had studied the patterns knew better. It was waiting. The night of August 12th proved us right. A multi-car incident near the Howard-Montgomery County line brought every available unit to the scene. 5 vehicles were involved in what appeared to be a chain reaction collision, but the drivers all told the same story. The creature had stood in the center of the road, forcing the first car to brake suddenly. As each vehicle stopped, it had moved between them with impossible speed, striking windows, denting hoods, and leaving its mark on every surface. William Garrett, who had been driving the third car, managed to capture something on his 8mm camera, which he'd been using to film his family's vacation. The footage, grainy and brief, showed a dark figure moving between stopped cars with an odd, loping gait. For 3 seconds, it turned toward the camera, and even in the poor quality, those horizontal pupils were visible, reflecting the headlights like a cat's eyes. But wrong, fundamentally wrong. The state suppressed the footage, but Garrett had already shown it to his brother, who worked at a local news station. Within days, despite official denials, the story went national. "Maryland Goatman attacks motorists," read the headlines, accompanied by artistic renderings based on witness descriptions. The coverage brought curiosity seekers from across the East Coast, turning Route 108 into a carnival of amateur monster hunters and thrill seekers. This influx had an unexpected effect. The creature went into hiding. Through the rest of August and into September, there were no confirmed sightings, though plenty of false reports from eager tourists seeing shadows in every tree. The official position became that the original incidents had been a combination of bear sightings, teenage pranks, and mass hysteria fueled by local legends. The special patrols were quietly discontinued. The case files were marked, resolved, animal activity, no further action required. But I knew different. On September 18th, working what would be my last night shift, I received a call that didn't follow the pattern. It came from a payphone in Ashton, the caller identifying himself only as Thomas. His voice was rough, strained, as if speaking was physically difficult. He said he needed to report an incident on Route 108 from earlier that evening, but couldn't come to the station. When I asked why, there was a long pause. Then he said, "Because I'm the one who causes them." I tried to keep him on the line, to trace the call, but he continued speaking in that same pained voice. He claimed to have been a graduate student at Johns Hopkins in 1968, part of a genetics research program exploring hybridization. There had been an accident, he said, or maybe it wasn't an accident. He couldn't remember clearly anymore. The transformation wasn't constant. Most days, he was human, living in the woods, surviving on what he could forage or hunt. But sometimes, especially on dark nights, when the hunger grew too strong, the change would come. "I try to stay away from the roads," he said. "But the lights draw me, the speed, the metal and glass. It's like being drunk on rage and joy at once. I can't control it. I've tried to leave, but something keeps pulling me back to these woods, to this specific stretch of road." When I asked if he was dangerous, if he would hurt anyone else, there was another pause. I took the teacher because I thought if I could just talk to someone, just remember how to be human. But when I tried to speak, only animal sounds came out. I let her go before the next change. Before I might have... The line went dead. We never traced the call. No one named Thomas matching his description was ever found in Johns Hopkins records, though 3 graduate students had left the genetics program abruptly in 1968. Their thesis work sealed by the university. The sightings tapered off through the fall of 1969. The last confirmed incident occurred on October 30th, when a state trooper found massive hoof prints circling his patrol car after a brief stop to check a disabled vehicle. After that, nothing. The official investigation closed in November. The witness reports were filed away, the physical evidence cataloged and stored. The entire matter relegated to a footnote in Maryland folklore. I transferred to a desk position in Baltimore shortly after, unable to shake what I'd heard that night. The other dispatchers who worked that summer scattered too. Retirement, transfers, career changes. Officer Brennan never spoke of what he saw, even to other officers, though he refused any assignment that would take him near Route 108 until he retired in 1975. The 3 officers who witnessed the creature together maintained their story privately, but never filed an official report beyond the initial radio traffic. I kept my own records, though. Every few years, I'd hear about an unexplained accident on that stretch of road, a motorist claiming they'd swerved to avoid something large in the road, unusual damage to vehicles that couldn't be easily explained. The reports were always isolated, never enough to trigger another investigation. But they continued, 1974, 1981, 1987, 1995. Always on the darkest nights, always along that same 7-mile stretch. In 2001, I received a package at my retirement home with no return address. Inside was a collection of photographs taken with a trail camera, the kind hunters use. They showed Route 108 at night from a concealed position in the trees. In most, the road was empty. But in 3 consecutive shots, timestamp 2:17 a.m. on August 12, 2001, exactly 32 years after the multi-car incident, a figure could be seen at the edge of the frame. Bipedal, hunched, with what appeared to be horns silhouetted against the darkness. The final photo showed only eyeshine, those horizontal pupils reflecting the infrared flash. A handwritten note was tucked behind the photos. Still here, still changing, still sorry. T. I've driven Route 108 exactly once since 1969. It was 2010, broad daylight, my granddaughter driving while I sat in the passenger seat. The road had been widened, parts of the forest cut back for development. Strip malls and subdivisions had claimed much of the wilderness that once pressed against the asphalt. But there were still stretches where the trees grew thick, where the canopy blocked the sun, where the modern world felt suddenly far away. As we passed through the section near Triadelphia Reservoir, I saw something that made my breath catch. Fresh scratches on a tree, too high for any deer, too deliberate for wind damage. 4 parallel marks, deeply gouged into the bark. My granddaughter didn't notice, chatting about her college plans as she drove. But I knew what I was looking at. A territorial marker, a sign that said, "Still here." The Maryland State Police Archives from 1969 remain partially classified. Freedom of Information requests return heavily redacted documents with key witness testimonies removed. The physical evidence, hair samples, photographs, that scrap of footage, has been misplaced or damaged by improper storage. But those of us who lived through that summer know the truth. Somewhere in the remnants of forest, along Route 108, something that should not exist continues to survive. Maybe it was a genetic experiment gone wrong. Maybe it was something older, disturbed by the expansion of roads and suburbs into its territory. Maybe it was just a man transformed by circumstances we'll never understand, trapped between two natures and belonging to neither. The reports still come in occasionally, though they're dismissed more easily now. A driver claims something ran alongside their car, near Clarksville, probably a deer. Someone reports eyes in the forest that don't look quite animal, trick of the light. Scratches appear on vehicles parked near the reservoir. Vandalism, obviously. The police don't investigate with the same urgency anymore. There's no special task force, no sealed files, no zoologists taking hair samples. But I notice things. The way local teenagers still dare each other to drive that stretch at midnight with their headlights off. The way longtime residents take alternate routes after dark, making excuses about traffic or construction. The way the county always finds reasons to increase lighting along that particular section of road, as if brightness alone could keep something at bay. Last month, my granddaughter called to tell me about a news story she'd seen online. A young couple had posted cell phone footage of something crossing Route 108 near Rocky Gorge Reservoir. The video was shaky, shot through a windshield at night, but for just a moment, a figure was visible in the headlights. Tall, moving with an unusual gait, gone before the camera could focus. The comments section filled with jokes about cryptids and hoaxes, people sharing their own ghost stories and urban legends. But I watched that footage dozens of times, frame by frame, until I found what others missed. In the final clear frame before the figure vanished, you could see its eyes reflecting the headlights. Horizontal pupils, golden shine, exactly as witnesses described in 1969. Exactly as I've seen in my dreams for over 50 years. My granddaughter asked if I believed it was real. I told her that some things are true, whether we believe in them or not. Some things exist in the margins, in the spaces between what we know and what we fear. And sometimes on dark nights when the moon is hidden and the forest presses close against the road, those things remind us that we haven't mapped every corner of the world, haven't categorized every creature, haven't eliminated all the mysteries. Route 108 has been modernized, developed, domesticated, but it still runs through patches of ancient darkness, still carries travelers past places where the normal rules feel suspended. And somewhere along that road, between Clarksville and Ashton, between midnight and dawn, between human and animal, something watches and waits and occasionally emerges to run alongside our vehicles, to remind us that we share this world with things we'll never fully understand. The Goatman, or whatever we choose to call it, hasn't been officially sighted since that grainy cell phone video. But I know it's still there. Not because I have proof, but because of the silence that falls sometimes when I mention those events from 1969, the way certain people's eyes shift away, the way they change the subject a little too quickly, because of the maintenance workers who find unusual tracks after heavy rain, because of the rhythmic dents that appear on guardrails with no explanation, because of the drivers who arrive at their destinations with stories they're afraid to tell, with damage to their vehicles they can't explain, with the lingering smell of musk and tar that no car wash can completely remove. I'm 76 now, and I've never spoken publicly about that summer until today. The other witnesses have mostly passed on or disappeared into the anonymity of different lives in different places. The official records remain buried in bureaucracy. The truth has been successfully suppressed, dismissed, forgotten by everyone except those who lived through it. But I remember everything: the panic in Dennis Hartley's voice, the precision of Jennifer Hoffman's description of those horizontal pupils, the weight in Thomas's words when he called himself a monster, the way Officer Brennan's hands shook when he sketched what he saw, the pattern of incidents that suggested intelligence, not instinct, the evidence that something impossible was happening on an ordinary stretch of Maryland Road. Some nights, when insomnia keeps me awake, I think about Thomas, if that was really his name, still out there in the diminishing forests, fighting a transformation he can't control, drawn to the roads he knows he should avoid. I wonder if he ages, if he suffers, if he remembers being fully human. I wonder if there are others like him, products of experiments we were never meant to conduct, living between worlds, appearing just often enough to become legend, but never enough to be proven. The young people today have their own theories, their own explanations involving conspiracy and cover-up, genetic engineering, and classified experiments. They post blurry photos and debate on forums, turning our real terror into entertainment. They don't understand that some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, that some truths are too heavy for the daylight world to carry. But for those who drive Route 108 on moonless nights, who feel their pulse quicken when the forest crowds the road, who check their mirrors more than necessary, and accelerate through the dark passages, they sense it. The possibility, the presence, the thing that shouldn't exist but does, running through the margins of our ordered world, neither fully animal nor fully human, forever trapped between forms, forever haunting the boundary between the known and the unknowable. I won't drive that road again, not because I'm afraid of what I might see, but because I'm afraid of what I might understand. Some knowledge changes you irreversibly, makes you a witness to things that don't fit into the normal flow of life. Those of us who worked that summer of 1969 carry that knowledge like a weight, a secret history that runs parallel to the official record, a truth that exists whether anyone believes it or not. The Goatman of Route 108 isn't just a creature. if it ever was. It's a reminder that our neat categories, human and animal, natural and unnatural, possible and impossible, are constructs we've created to feel safe. But the boundaries are thinner than we pretend. And sometimes, on dark roads through ancient forests, something crosses over to show us just how thin they really are. The road is still there. The forest, though diminished, still stands. And somewhere between the two, between civilization and wilderness, between what we know and what we fear to know, something waits. It has waited since 1969. It will wait long after the last witness has gone silent, after the last file has been sealed, after the last person who remembers that summer has taken their story to the grave. But the road remembers. The forest remembers. And on the darkest nights, when the conditions are just right, the thing we called the Goatman remembers too, and runs.